Danielle from Rosetta Vera. Today I'm back with a swatching video for these Jane Davenport Mermaid markers. This is kind of what started me on the journey to kind of looking at this Jane Davenport stuff a little closer. I had saw the Jane Davenport stuff when it first came out and kind of was like, oh, the prices are too high, and passed them by, and then they went on clearance. I wasn't really interested at the time, and then I saw someone swatching these and I was like, ooh, I think I want those. So that's kind of what started this whole haul, is me wanting these mermaid markers. So let's see if they live up to my expectations. So there are 12 mermaid markers in this pack. These are watercolor ink markers. So we can see how that goes. We know I don't always have the best of luck with watercolor markers, but let's see how it goes. All right, unlike the glitzy markers, there is a little, just ignore that siren in the background, I don't know what's going on. There is a little tip sheet. Let's see. These actually tell you what to do to get them started. That's a first. That hasn't happened in the other items I opened. So here's what we're seeing. They're saying once you run out of ink, just use them as water brushes. To begin using the mermaid markers, unscrew the pen top and remove the disposable yellow ring. Replace the brush top and tighten. Do not replace the yellow ring or the pen will leak. That's good to know. To keep the mermaid's markers fluid, occasionally squeeze, push on the barrel of the marker. Saying you can make gradients by touching the tips of the markers together. I don't know if I want to do that. It said if you want to lighten the colors or blur them, add a little water to the brush tip. If the tips become dried out, you can submerge them in hot water. And also for air travel, put them in a sealed plastic bag. So those are the tips. So let me get rid of the yellow rings and also put these in as close to Roy G. Biv as I can. So let me do that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and taken off the yellow rings on all 12 markers and tried to put them in some kind of order. I may switch them around as I go along. So I have an idea how these are going to work just from me picking them up and kind of moving them around. They're very, very fluid. You can see that already, so I understand why the recommendation would be to be careful that they leak. This color name is Coral, so I might move this around again into the oranges like I had it. So my expectation of these markers is that they're really water brushes with watercolor in them, not necessarily markers. That's my expectation of them. That's part of the reason I have this palette here, just to kind of get them started and get them flowing. I think my expectation is also that they may be a little messy, and they may be more, I have to think about them more like paint brushes versus markers. So that being said, there is a brush tip. You can see that the color is already flowing into them, and I don't think I did much. Yeah. It's a little firmer than I expected, but let me get my pad out and we'll start playing with these. I'm also thinking you're going to have to store these straight up. So these are not going to be able to go like in a pencil case. Might be better that these sit on your table in a cup or something like that. Or if you have one of those pencil cases that's more of a roll that you can sit up, that might be better. I might have a sample of one and I'll show you that towards the end of the video. So let me get a pad. So my thoughts are these are probably going to bleed through. I could be wrong, but I'm just going to open up my pad to be on the safe side. We're gonna start with the first pen, which is called Starfish. Like I said, these are brush tip markers or water brushes. I think when I saw them being used, oh, these are really soft. They were used for lettering. So I am writing a little larger than usual because of that feeling of it feeling more like a brush versus a marker. So these are not firm at all. This is not a brush tip marker. This is a water brush with watercolor in it. I thought I was gonna have to pump these a little bit. You'll see it says push on the side. I thought I was gonna have to pump these a little bit to get started. I did not need to do anything. That watercolor is ready to go. Because this is more of watercolor versus marker, these need to dry down. So that's the first one, Starfish. Next we have Lobster. We have Coral. Like I said, I don't think you need to pump these too much. As I was turning that tip upside down, the color was already starting to come up. And then we have Pirate's Gold. Let's see. And I think I want to make sure these aren't leaking. That's a little out of Roy G. Biv order. And I would say when you take those yellow rings out, because they flow so much, really make sure you tighten them up so that they don't leak. Next we have Beach. Let's see. Like, is it started or is it that light? I think it is that light. So there's not really a true orange here because both Pirate's Gold and Beach are very yellow. And Coral is more pinky coral versus orange coral. Now we have Reef. And again, as I'm turning them upside down, that color is coming right to the tip. So I really don't need to squeeze them to get them started. I think if you squeeze them, it actually makes them messy. I think you just have to be patient and wait for the color to come down. And then we have Seaweed. Like I said, the brush tip is very, very soft. It is the equivalent of a paintbrush. This is not a brush tip marker. This is a paintbrush. We have Siren. just like a bluish green. I really don't want to push down on these, so I don't want them to flood. I'm gonna give it a gentle squeeze just to get the color flowing. We have Byron Bay. Again, just a gentle squeeze to get some color going. I'm like being really careful about squeezing these. You can see the difference with me squeezing it, how much darker that color came out, how much darker the brush tip got. It's also a blue-green. Now we have blue bottle. We have jellyfish. And finally, we have deep sea. So those are all 12 colors in the Jane Davenport Mermaid markers. Do they live up to my expectations? I mean, they're about what I expected. I'll say I wish that the brush tips were a little firmer, so I could have better control. I'll say I'm concerned about the construction of the barrels if they're going to leak. I'm just going to bring this palette in here to kind of show what I mean about if you push too much. That would be my concern, that it'd be easy to flood these out and just make a mess. You can kind of see, let's see if I can get it to do bubble up again. You'll see that color bubbling up there. So my concern would be like that, like how do I control things like that? I think to work with them, it might be a good idea to have a palette nearby so you can kind of play with the color, make sure you're not overdoing, and you don't have too much paint on the brush before you start writing. I think these could be nice for, oops, what are they? I think these could be nice for painting projects. I think lettering, if you have good control, you can make these work. Like I said, I don't practice anymore, so my control isn't there, but someone with better control could figure out how to make these work really well for them. The person whose video I watched had very good control, so they could make these work. Like if you can make those lines smooth where you're not stopping and starting like I did, these could be really nice. I mean, overall, I do like them. I don't know how much I would use them though. My favorite colors would probably be, right now I would say the Byron Bay and the Starfish, because it's like a strawberry red. Blue bottle I have to play with a little bit. I don't think this is the best swatch of it, but it's a nice dusty blue. Yeah, I'm thinking about how I would use them, because my concern would be that the barrels might be problematic and might leak. The construction of them doesn't feel extremely sturdy, and I think that leaves me concerned that you could make a mess while using these. But it's not that I think, see, there's a blue bottle a little darker. It's not that I think they're bad. I just have to think about how I would use them. Definitely on watercolor paper. I think they would probably show up much nicer on water paper. This is, again, just a Muji pad that I had around. The paper is pretty thin and cheap. So it would probably show up much better. I mean, after squeezing these, I think you get better results when you squeeze them and get the color a little darker. But again, I keep coming back to this. I don't know how messy these would be to work with. And I would definitely recommend keeping a little palette or something next to you so that you can kind of take off any excess watercolor that you don't need as you're working. Hopefully I put in how much I paid for these, because I got them on sale. I have to figure out where I'm going to store them, since I do think they should be stored straight up and not horizontally. What was the recommendation? I don't think there was a recommendation about how to store them, but my recommendation would be to store them straight up so that the ink isn't leaking down into the brush. Because I do like to reuse things. I do like the fact that once the ink runs out, I could just use these as water brushes. So that appeals to me. How much ink is in here? So the ink goes all the way down into the end, so that's as much ink as you're getting. So it may take you a while to go through the ink. I think it depends on how much is flowing. Like I said, I think these look nicer the more color you spread out, but you really gotta have good control and know what to do, and you gotta pay attention so you won't make a mess. I think that's about it for these. Right now, I won't say I don't like them. I can't say I'm over the moon, but I won't say I don't like them. I think I have to find the right application for them, and then I'll you know, have more of an opinion about them. But that's it for the Jane Davenport Mermaid markers. As always, thank you for spending time with me. I guess I could tell you, because these are wet, use them or something that's got a good grit to it. I wouldn't use these in coloring books because they'll seep through, and I think even if you had thicker pages, they just wouldn't adhere to the page, because it's not like the other kind of watercolors where you'll see them dry down. They don't dry down the same way. They're very watery. So that's something to keep in mind. So to me, this is like, you know, watercolor paper applications. I would probably say the main thing, or really, really gritty paper where it can kind of sink in. Let me get back to my exit. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I think that's where I was at. And I'll see you in the next video.